It's a Thanksgiving edition here on Zero Block 30. Yeah, the whole squad's gobbling it up. We're just gobbling it down the old gullet. That's what we're doing today.
Sorry, that just really quickly, that made me think what Kate's gobble. So when I was in high school, senior year.
It's a good gobble.
Yeah, it was a good gobble. So actually, it wasn't just senior year. It was every year at my high school. There was a gobble competition. So you would go on like the PA loudspeaker and they selected like 5 or 6 people and you did like your gobble. And then they would do it like over the course of a few days or the week leading up to Thanksgiving. And then like right before leaving for Thanksgiving, they would reveal who the gobblers were and who everybody voted for. So that just reminded me of that. So
did you ever gobble?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I was one of the gobblers senior year, but I did not win, unfortunately.
Go ahead.
Oh, but you know what? The other thing I did? I yelled out one of my friends' names. Like it was not a gobble.
Oh, you did a shout
out.
You were a cool guy. Okay. Fair enough.
Yelling out can be embarrassing though. Kate and I experienced that in Philadelphia. It was awful. So we were walking down this hallway leaving the Barstool Invitational, and Kate and I were going, and it was a very smelly hallway for some reason. I think that's where like a lot of the hockey gear was at. Like, and
I think that's just Philly. I think that's just Philly.
Could be.
Oh, okay.
So Kate and I were walking down the hallway, and I was like, it smells like Badussy in here. Yeah. And Badussy, if you're not expecting it, I think it always makes people laugh.
It hit my funny
Badussy.
bone.
Yeah.
And we were tired. It would have been a long day, so I was like laughing really hard at it. And then Chaps went ahead of me and thought I was still right next to him. And there's some other coworkers walking his way, and he's just like, Badussy, really loud at them. But I was like,
I'm like yelling it in the park, like, Badussy. And they look over at me, and it was just like that's not funny at all face. It was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I turned around, and Kate was so far behind me. So I'm in the parking lot by myself screaming Badussy. It was a good time.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, we got 2 rounds in the magazine today. Round number 1, the FBI and Air Force OSI, which is kind of like NCIS or CID from other branches, raided a man's house who had all sorts of information about Area 51. They took laptops, hard drives, cell phones, all kinds of stuff. It's getting curiouser and curiouser over there in Area 51. That's a fantastic story. And second up, we have the military history of Thanksgiving, which includes boiling a shit ton of birds. This story is going to blow your mind. Because you hear stories about Thanksgiving, and we all know it wasn't people getting off the Mayflower and everybody having a kumbaya moment. Everybody knows that was bullshit. But the military version of Thanksgiving and how that started, it's fucking awesome. So we're going to talk about that today, which is all going to be brought to you by our good friends at WhistlePig. WhistlePig is the best whiskey. By the way, whiskey is coming up big in the baking game. Annalise came across, she was on Pinterest looking for different things to make for Thanksgiving, like desserts. Because you have like your pumpkin pie, pecan pie, all that kind of stuff. She's going to make whiskey molasses cookies.
I was just telling you about molasses the other day, was I not, Chaps?
You were.
People sleep on it.
They do.
It's really, really good. I grew up near Lancaster, Amish country, and they're always pumping out molasses over there. Mm-hmm. And I grew up eating chocolate-covered molasses lollipops, all that shit. Ooh, yes.
Yeah, I love ginger. I love a little bit molasses, and those kind of cookies are my favorite. Like, especially if they're a little bit soft, they're wonderful. That being said, there's a recipe that she found, 2 ounces of rye whiskey that goes into these cookies. She's making it on Thursday for Thanksgiving, and I absolutely can't wait. If you want to bake or if you want to drink, whatever, do that with WhistlePig. They have the bourbon, they have the rye. The rye is a little more spicy, the bourbon's a little bit sweeter, but all of them are 100% proof or 100% rye. You can go right now to shop.whistlepig.com and pick up those bottles there. You could just go to a local retailer, pick it up. The WhistlePig, it is awesome. The piggyback, any kind that you want to get, whether it's the Boss Hog, the Farm Stock, or the piggyback, you can have those. Let's get going with the show today. But before we do that, I need to say something. I'm not a fancy guy by any means in the world. I went to a gala that was my first non-military gala, because I've been to galas like the Headstrong Gala or different organizations like that, but never to a regular gala. I had the time of my life. It was unbelievable. I got to put on a fancy coat, And
you and your wife looked so good. You guys really did. You looked very fancy.
Thank you so much. And the what I was gonna say, I know a lot of guys aren't wife guys, and I know it's very in vogue to say.
What does that mean?
Well, a lot of people, especially on this network, be like, "Oh, it's my roommate. I gotta go out." Like, I'm not like that. I'm a wife guy through and through. I have to say, my wife on that day was the most attractive woman I have ever seen in my life. She looked fantastic. Wonderful. It was a privilege to be on her arm this time because she's the one that does all that kind of stuff. And I want to tell you a little bit about what it was. I went to an LGBTQ gala, and a lot of it was focused on trans kid, which if you listen to the show for long enough, you know my kid is non-binary. There was this last month, since the election, not even a month, there has been 57 different bills in Texas that are designed to go after trans kids. One of which would make me a felon. One of them, if you do any type of gender affirming care, this is not medicinally related, it's not surgically related, it's simply care at a psychologist. If you do that, you're a felon and they want you to go to prison. Not just that, the sentence that they want to have is life imprisonment for that. So I got to get the fuck out of Texas. And that organization, it was having money for other people who they can't afford for their kids to get out of Texas before they're legitimately in danger. So I wanted to tell our audience about that at the top of the show. Now we can switch into the regular show. What do we got, Kate?
Yes. So earlier this month, agents. Side note: this comes at a pertinent time because our own Stephen Che, who switched over to content recently, he's on the Yak. He's doing all sorts of great big football data guy, but he's not like a wacky, super creative type. He's a very facts, figures, numbers, not the type to make
hard
stuff
data
up.
guy. He's a
hard data guy is what I'm trying to say. Not the type to make stuff up.
This is a really nice way of Kate just calling Stephen Che a nerd.
Oh, yeah.
He is a huge nerd.
I mean, I think he would be the first person to say that, too.
Yeah, totally.
You don't have Excel streets for basketball rebounds without being a nerd.
Yeah. He gets on Twitter last night and is like, I'm not joking. I saw a UFO. I saw tonight, I was out driving and I saw a UFO. I know it sounds crazy. He proceeds to describe exactly what he saw. He's like shaken by it. He's totally whatever. And then somebody posts another video from somewhere else in the country going, oh my God, what the fuck is this? And it's a video of these two, it almost looks like comets swirling each other up in the sky and they're passing each other and they're twirling. And he's like, oh my God, this is literally exactly what the fuck I saw too at the same time this person saw it somewhere else in the country. And at this point, I'm like, oh my God, Stephen Che saw a fucking UFO. He did. I just believe it wholeheartedly. So anyway,
didn't he say he saw it right above Newark?
Yeah, right above an airport.
Yeah, one of the busiest airports in the world.
Yes. Well, so what? Because people are like, oh, it's skydivers coming into a football game. And it's like, no, that game
be
up
hiding
here
played inside again.
Ended up way earlier than that. And when he saw it. Anyways, I'm a believer. That Kazaa, another guy who works here, had an actual alien encounter at one point. I actually know people now who are saying they've seen this shit, and I believe it. So
and
I'm hopping into
Zah
this
swears up and down that it's true, and not just people, not just Zah, but everybody else from his area of Zimbabwe also says it.
Yes. So, anyways, that's on my mind as we get into this one this morning. I'm now a full-on believer.
Oh yeah.
So, earlier this month, agents from both the FBI and the U.S. Air Force raided multiple homes. Sick flex. I hope that's me someday. I have multiple homes to get raided, belonging to a man who runs a little-known blog about Area 51. That man, George Arnu, said the swarm of federal agents in riot gear busted into his primary residence, handcuffed him, and marched him outside to wait in the freezing cold while they rifled through his apartment and took pretty much every piece of electronic equipment he owned.
I need to point out that his name, even though it is George, it's spelled Joerg. Automatically, don't trust him. Automatic.
No, I was going to say fancy.
You got to have George in a traditional setup. You have to have it in the traditional language. This is outrageous.
Yeah, his name was just Joe. It was Joe for the longest time. He's like, let me throw some extra letters on there to kind of church it up a bit.
Maybe he's from somewhere else. Anyways, so far the government has been pretty tight-lipped about the whole thing. but officials did verify that it happened. Lieutenant Colonel Brian B-R-Y-O-N, what's up with this group?
Right, just
What
a bunch
the
of
fuck?
weirdo spellings, yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Lieutenant Colonel Brian McGarry confirmed the raid. He did not elaborate on its purpose, saying only, "This is an open and ongoing law enforcement investigation between the Las Vegas FBI and the Air Force OSI."
Two
What?
federal agencies, both investigating the same thing at the same time. That's what exactly right, Kate.
They're
They call
scissoring
that-
their research together.
Exactly, a federal scissoring.
What did cops want? It's not exactly clear. Since 1999, Arnu has run Dreamland Resort, a website that covers activities in and around Area 51. Oh, I
Red
thought that was
flag.
going to be sexy.
That's a red flag.
I absolutely thought that was something completely different, just based on that
Yep.
name.
Yep.
I was like a website that what?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Also,
Area
Dreamland was
51.
the name of the skating rink that I used to go to in middle school and hold hands with girls. It was
Oh,
awesome.
there you go. Among other things, our news site features photos of chaps holding hands with girls at roller rinks.
Not me.
Oh. Our news site features pictures and writing about the Air Force's so-called black projects, opaque, classified operations carried out behind a veil of government secrecy.
If you've ever watched 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, it's basically like that, where they talk
Okay.
about black sites all the time.
Well, this could help explain why on November 3rd, droves of agents from the FBI and Air Force Office of Special Investigations stormed 2 Nevada residences belonging to Arnu, one in Vegas, the other in the small town of Rachel, which is located right next to Area 51. At the time, Arnu was staying at the residence in Rachel while his girlfriend was staying at the one in Vegas. Trouble in paradise. According to Arnu, the raids involved 15 to 20 agents in full riot gear. They damaged his home. He claims they took laptops, phones, backup drives, camera gear, and his drone was seized. In a blog post, he describes how it all went down. This happened without any warning. The doors were broken open, and my girlfriend and I were in our home having a beautiful lovemaking session while our friend Gabriel watched in the corner. We were Chaps, you wrote this.
Yeah, I did. I added that in. Because I
Okay.
knew you were at the dentist and you would have time to read through it.
Yeah.
So I put that in there.
We were
Just a
detained and
classic game of the Goofin. That's Goofin.
my girlfriend was let out into the street wearing only her crotchless underwear. Full view of the neighbors, including that pervert Mark. I was let outside handcuffed in only a t-shirt leather mask with a zipper for a mouth and sweats in sub-freezing temperatures. Thank you, Chaps.
You're welcome.
Despite all the chaos.
This is a real story. I didn't set all that up just to put in
For-
a couple sexually related jokes.
Fair enough.
But I would have typically too, so I had to clarify.
Anyways, they will not tell him why the raid happened. Arnu notes the raid left him without any way to communicate with anybody, and they may have to take legal action to get his stuff back. I was very surprised how forceful the search warrant was executed and how rough I'm like, is this another Chaps
No.
special? And how rough the sex was.
me right there, yeah.
Both unarmed senior citizens were treated. I have to believe that someone gave them bad information about us. So he's thinking they were, what do they call it, where you get like doxxed or like
Yeah. Swatted.
swatted. It sounds like he thinks they were swatted. With the equipment, I lost all my medical records, financial and tax records, passwords, email, phone contacts, photos. Even my phone was taken, leaving me and Rachel with 2 broken doors and no way to call for help.
Let me just say here, because these folks in the article, they were described as being like 67 and 71. I think that was the ages of the couple. If you're 67 or 71 and somebody takes all your medical records, financial, tax records, your passwords that are written down, emails and phone contacts and photos, as a 67-year-old, you will never get that back. You're not going to remember any of your
No.
passwords.
No shot.
You're not even going to remember you're not even going to know how to get to your power company's website. Like all those things, no way. You're never
No.
going to recover from that.
No,
I
I
feel bad
barely
if
can
they-
remember my passwords, and I have a note that has them. Maybe I shouldn't
Yeah.
say that out loud, but yes.
Yeah.
If either of them have kids, those poor kids,
Yeah.
you're going to be getting a lot of calls. Do you know what my password was? Do you know where this is? Anyway, Gizmodo, the news site, reached out to both Nellis Air Force Base in Vegas and the Justice Department. They asked for details about the raids, and just for the hell of it, they also asked about the pictures on our news website.
And none of that stuff was given. After they take it down
Yeah.
and they took down they went to the domain. They tried to shut it down. I think it's actually back up now, but for a while it was shut down. I need to get in that archive, like archive.web, where you can go to different websites and they'll have an archive version of a lot of websites. I need to see these pictures, because if the FBI and OSI are super interested, and they actually did a raid. In order to do a raid, remember, 2 federal agencies, you have to have a federal judge sign off on that, not like a district court. Like, it's not your local principalities that you can go in there for a traffic court. This is a federal judge that have to sign off on these search warrants, probably multiple because it's in multiple states.
Yeah. And I'm on dreamlandresort.com right now.
Oh, so it's back up.
It's back up again.
Love it.
Now he's got a GoFundMe going to help him out a little bit.
Smart.
And
Yeah.
Aliens love using Venmo. They'll hook them up.
I don't know. I just think with aliens in general and UFOs, and even to Stephen Che's story, I think people, just because we've gone our whole life, and obviously there are documentaries and there are websites clearly with pictures and everything that, you know, alludes to the fact that there might be something else out there. I think people want to believe that there is something else out there. It's kind of like when Billy Madison, he says, I drew the duck blue because I've never seen a blue duck.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Right? Where there's a confirmation bias. We're like, all right, well, this is it. If 2 agencies rated it, then it must be true. And I don't begrudge people for that, because I guess it would be cool if we found out there were UFOs and aliens and such. But it's just, I think, interesting to see how people will dedicate their entire lives to the search of UFOs and aliens and anything else that it's not of this world.
I never really thought aliens were real. Like, I wasn't like a huge alien guy. I think I even said it on a rundown that we did on like the USS Intrepid in New York. And I was like, I'm not an alien guy at all. And then I saw this video. You remember when on the internet they were doing all kinds of auto-tune videos, like the rainbow guy, the dude who was like, got in there, like his house was on fire and he came out, like those people that go super viral and they auto-tune it. I thought that that's what this was going to be. I thought it was just going to be a little auto-tune goofing, that they weren't really around, the aliens weren't really there. But then I watched this video. That's where I was going with that. I forgot totally, and then I was just talking to get there again. So with this video, I think that what was I saying again? I fucking lost it again.
I don't know. That's okay. That's okay.
Jesus Christ.
Sometimes I start a sentence and I don't even know which way I'm going to end
be
it.
auto-tuned. There's something about it being auto-tuned. I thought that that's what it was going to be. So aliens are out there. I found it again. Aliens are out there. But I listened to this auto-tuned song by Carl Sagan, where he says, he's in a documentary, and he says, if you wish to really make an apple pie from scratch, first you must invent the universe. And I was like, whoa. And then he explains how big the universe is and how much expansion is there. And once I couldn't wrap my brain around it, but once I tried to wrap my brain around it, I was like, there's gotta be. I mean, there's no chance with all these different galaxies, all these different planets, all these different moons for essentially forever. Like, there's no end of it in sight. There has to be.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I just don't spend really any time researching it or really looking it up.
Me either. Yeah.
Until it's just
Don't
right
let them
there
hear
in
you
front
say
of me.
that, because that puts you at the top of the probing list.
I'm just telling you. Until
I
there's
think about
something
it constantly.
right in front of me, I probably won't give any part of my life to discovering UFOs or aliens. But if they're out there, okay, cool, I'll entertain that.
I would love to see one. Just once.
Yeah,
I would like
that's
to
what I'm saying.
I would like to do, just like go golfing with one. Like, if there's an alien, me and him, I bet you can even get on Augusta with that. Be like, call him up, be like, hey, I got a real life fucking alien here that would love to go down Magnolia Way.
But first they'd be like, wait a minute, is it a woman?
Oh,
'Cause
true.
that's
They
a
wouldn't
no-go
like that.
if it
No,
is.
Yeah, they wouldn't want any.
All right.
No Tetons allowed over there at Masters. Sad.
No, Condoleezza Rice is a member at Augusta.
Well, now, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that didn't happen until like 1998 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. All right, let's move on to round number 2. Today's show is also brought to you by our good friends at Manscaped. It's never too early to pay holiday music, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts. Whether it's for a friend or the friends in your pants, you can make sure this holiday season is jolly like your balls with Manscaped. Santa care about his sack. You should care about your sack. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com. Use the promo code 0. You're going to get free shipping and 20% off. The Manscaped Platinum Package, which I have here at my house. A lot of people, when I first shaved a beard, were making fun of my ear hair, like I had a little bit of ear hair going on, and wouldn't you know, a couple days later, Manscaped sends me a package. I got no ear hair anymore. People are saying, look how handsome Chap's looking at his mustache, and he doesn't have ear hair, and his balls are cleanly shaved. Just unbelievable. They have the Lawnmower 4.0, waterproof electric trimmer, the Weed Whacker, which is that ear and nose trimmer I just told you about, 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It's sea kelp infused. It smells absolutely delightful. They got a body wash with an aloe infused hydration, and if you're like me in this winter season, the late fall, everything gets dry, so your skin gets dry. You need to hydrate that shit. They got deodorant that's aluminum free. They got the crop preservers that after your balls are shaved, you can put that on there for anti-chafing. And they got the Crop Reviver, which is the ball spray that's going to make them bad boys smell like an absolute spring mist. You could do all that today for 20% off and free shipping with the code ZERO at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the promo code ZERO. Manscaped, get your jingle balls ready for the holidays. This article is very cool because we hear different things about how Thanksgiving started, but it's interesting to view it from a military perspective, and we're going to start in the World War II time period. Kate, what do we have here?
Okay. During World War II, political wrangling over the date to celebrate Thanksgiving. There was rationing and shortages, restrictions on travel, disruptions to treasured traditions that might have altered plans, but the spirit prevailed of Thanksgiving. It prevailed. The country paused to gather with family, reflect on blessings, and thank the Lord, the giver of all goodeth gifts. So in the summer of 1939, concerned retailers approached President Franklin Roosevelt. Macy's was like, yo, what the fuck? Are we doing Black Friday or what's going on?
Yeah, there's a story inside here. Imagine if it happened today. It would absolutely never happen. No shot.
Yeah.
Keep going, Kate.
So it's the summer of 1939. Retailers are coming to the president. They're coming to Franklin Roosevelt. They're like, what the fuck? Christmas shopping season never started before Thanksgiving. Refreshing. But in 1939, Thanksgiving, which had been celebrated on the last Thursday of November since 1863, would land on November 30th, which would curtail revenue. In August 1939, Roosevelt issued a presidential proclamation changing Thanksgiving to the third Thursday of November.
Which is the fourth time in American history the date of Thanksgiving has changed. Fourth.
But how cool is it that you get to just proclaim something? Like, obviously, we live in a democracy, but to be able to have a proclamation, that's pretty cool.
You'd have like 200 and something Congress people that are like, this is bullshit. That's not how tradition goes. Like, they would be all up in arms about it.
Well, that's exactly what happened. It was hugely unpopular. 32 states said, fine, we'll do the earlier Thanksgiving, but 16 states said, no way, we're sticking with the older date. In 1939, 1940, and 1941, 2 separate dates were celebrated depending on the state. Very annoying if you had family.
If you have 2
both.
Thanksgivings, you don't have one. That's what I say.
Yeah. The later original date was nicknamed Republican Thanksgiving, and the new early date was called Democrat Thanksgiving. Libsgiving or Franksgiving. But so you think Thanksgiving with family and politics is rough. Now imagine having to go to both Republican and Democrat Thanksgiving, and your drunk uncle's there at both.
And still not a lot of talk politics.
Yeah. Mid-1941, Roosevelt admitted the earlier date had no effect on retail sales figures. So
that's what would never happen today. He admitted that he was wrong.
Yeah.
The president came out and told the American people, without a caveat, that he was wrong.
Yeah. So on October 6th, 1941, the House of Representatives voted to move Thanksgiving back to the last Thursday of November. The Senate amended the bill.
Snip, snap, going back and forth.
Snip, snap. The Senate amended it in December of 1941. Despite the previous day's declaration of war on Japan.
Blew my fucking mind.
The day before, they declare war on Japan, but there's still people like, well, what about Thanksgiving this year? What about Thanksgiving? You guys doing that Thanksgiving thing?
Priorities.
Like, you would think Pearl Harbor would be a big enough day in American history where they can put aside what day we're going to have Thanksgiving on.
Yeah. Well, think again. Throughout the war, the U.S. military went out of its way to provide traditional meals for the men and women overseas. Thousands of turkeys and all the trimmings were sent to the front lines all over the world, and a serious effort was made to give each man a hot holiday meal, no matter where they served. And that's always huge for morale. We saw it like on Camp Leatherneck in Afghanistan on Easter. They had butter sculptures of rabbits, like 6 feet tall. It was like, wow, I'm so happy now. Rationing and shortages. In 1942, the first war.
Hold on, I want to go through this menu
Yeah.
first. So there's a menu of what it was like on the USS Wake Island, Thanksgiving 1943. So some of the things that they had on here is basically like if you're going to a gala where they have the different menu items on there. The first up for cocktail hour, you're going to have tomato juice cocktail. You're going to top that off with a puree of turkey soup. You're going to have some stuffed celery. What do you stuff celery with? Peanut butter and raisins?
Just like,
ants
like,
on a
like
log?
Ants on a log type deal. That's what it's got to be.
Chicken salad.
Yeah.
Some kind of like
I
some
guess you
kind
could
of
do
meat.
that too. I choose to believe that they're doing ants on a log though, because that would be adorable.
Okay,
if they were.
I like that.
They got mixed vegetable salad, great. Thousand Island, great. They got roasted tom turkey, Virginia-based ham, some gibbet gravy. We got creamy mashed Irish potatoes, some canned sweet potatoes, creamed corn, golden bantam corn, I don't know what that is. Hot Parker House rolls, no idea. Pumpkin pie, cranberry sauce, bread, butter, cheese, mixed hard candy, mixed nuts, cigars, cigarettes, beans, hams, tomatoes, grabo,
Corn, tomatoes.
I think that's a solid menu, top to bottom.
It
really.
is pretty
agree.
good. I mean,
I
to be
agree.
on the, and I think what's really cool about this is that so many of the American people had to be like, we don't have Thanksgiving birds, and that's fine because we have to send it to the war effort. So the fellas out at war have it. I don't know if that would happen today because we're so self-focused, self-focused on not just ourselves but our families. I don't know if we would do that now.
I think certain groups for sure would. I think absolutely. Yeah, I definitely. I do believe it would be the same. I think people would still do it.
Positive Katie, okay.
Positive Katie, I really do. Rationing and shortages, speaking of not having enough turkey to send, in 1942, the first wartime Thanksgiving in America, only sugar was rationed. I would have died. But shortages of meat and butter challenged housewives to create innovative menus. I don't want my husband to be mad at me Many of the spices used in traditional foods were scarce since they came from areas of the world conquered by the Japanese, and precious cargo space was reserved for more vital supplies.
And I think sometimes when you hear about World War II, you think that, I don't know if that could happen today, where you have like spices that are stopped in from coming. But it absolutely does happen. It's happening with Russia and Ukraine, like with Ukraine being 25% or something like that of the global supplier of wheat. All of that was stopped. They couldn't transport it, which is one of the causes of inflation rising around the world. Their natural gas exports from Russia are another thing that's happening. So it might not be cardamom or oregano that is stopped, but it definitely is a lot of things that are stopped.
Yeah, I'm sure Europe's feeling it more than we are. I'm sure they're actually seeing a lot more of
some of their heating bills. They will go up last year to about 200 American equivalent. Yeah. They said in Germany, because they stupidly stopped their nuclear reactor for heating, now their bills this month could approach like $1,100, $1,200 a month in wintertime.
And a huge shortage of vodka on swords.
True. Exactly
across Europe,
exactly
which is
right.
difficult. In 1943 and 44, the challenges increased. By 1943, meat, cheese, butter, fats, canned and processed foods were all rationed. A clever cook saved ration stamps for the holiday and improvised substitutions.
I think that means rich. I think that just means rich, like people that had a lot of shit before. Because you didn't get enough to even survive whenever on rations. It was difficult.
Well, that's what they're saying. They would improvise the rest of the year so that they could throw all their stamps down for a really good holiday. While poultry was never rationed in the U.S., turkey was scarce for Thanksgiving since so many of the birds were shipped overseas for the service members' feasts. For football, the American tradition, the Thanksgiving football game was battered by the war. Pro and college teams were decimated by the draft, and many professional teams closed down for the duration, including the Detroit Lions and Cleveland Rams. The Philadelphia Eagles and Steelers combined for the 1943 season for a team named the Steagles.
Did you know that, Kate, as an Eagles fan? Like the two Pennsylvania teams going at it. Now they're loves.
Yeah, imagine that locker room. Yo, what's going on? Hey, Ian's going down the bar for chipped ham and that after this down south side. Yo, go Birds. Steagles.
And in that time, your rivalry was the closest game because you didn't have the ability to do cross-country flights and all that kind of stuff nearly as cheap. So you played the teams that were close. So these must have been intense rivals that are all of a sudden on the same team.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I feel like I'd heard the name Steagles before, but but I really didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Not the last Eagles fact in this article, Kate.
Whoa. If this ends with batteries and Santa, I'm leaving the show.
No.
Macy's-
This fact, when I came across it, was nearly breathtaking. Because it's not something that you would ever think of needing to do. This shit's fucking wild.
So Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and that's like an American iconic thing. It's in so many iconic movies. It's in I remember watching it. We all watched it on TV growing up. So rubber was one of the most critical wartime shortages since 92% of America's supply came from Japanese occupied lands.
And not condoms, folks. We're not talking about those kind of rubbers. Yeah.
On November 13th, though, I'm sure that was affected as well. On November, did they have those back then?
No, that was
why do you think the baby boom generation happened?
Yeah,
Fair enough,
and that
fair
was
enough.
the highest rise in chlamydia in American history.
Hot tunes.
The whole squad had chlamydia.
November 13th, 1942, Macy's department stores ceremonially handed over their famous giant rubber balloons for the annual parade, including Superman, who was brand new, and these balloons were shredded for scrap rubber, and the parade was canceled, not to resume again until November 1945. And again, that shows that, everybody was in on it together.
How bad
everyone
was.
was committed. Yes.
Yeah. So
Because they sent out, I'm sure you've seen, and you can see it in my office, I'll do the camera, all those different types of World War II propaganda posters and things like that. One of them, I had never seen this one. One of them was put out about that rubber issue. They said that a gas mask requires 1.1 pounds of rubber. A lifeboat requires 17 to 100 pounds of rubber. That seems like a lot of variance there for the lifeboat.
different sizes, I guess.
A scout car requires 306 pounds of rubber, and a heavy bomber requires 1,825 pounds of rubber. America needs your scrap rubber, is what it says at the bottom of the propaganda poster.
But
So
it is
everyone's
interesting.
turning in.
The last 2 decades, with all the conflicts that we've been embroiled in, and I don't think the American public has really been affected in this nature, right?
And the things that they were affected about, it was fixed pretty quickly. I know that there was issues with formula. That was a huge one that we had issues with supply chain. And there's definitely been other things like technology related. It's more difficult to make cell phones. PlayStation 5 isn't available. So these high-tech things are common for them to be
but I'm
done
talking
in
about just everyday
widespread.
life.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We're not out of bread. We're not out of fucking
Right.
milk. You can go.
I'm not, seeing a tire down the side of the road.
Exactly.
And whoop, better bring that to the scrap yard.
Yeah.
Drop it off at the front gate at Lackland. Yeah.
Well, as for the very first Thanksgivings way back in the Mayflower Times that you were talking about, there's only 2 documents detailing the menu that have survived from 1621. They mention waterfowl, which most likely means ducks, geese, and or swans were the bird of the day.
Give
Sorry
me a
to the
roasted
swan lovers
swan
out there.
any day of the week, buddy.
Do people, is that taboo, eating horse, roast swan?
I think so. I think people would. I think goose is okay. Lots of people eat goose. I think the larger you get in birds, people start to really frown on it.
Get a
If
little
somebody
upset.
came over and I did a roasted spatchcock ostrich on my smoker, I think people would be upset about it.
Sorry,
I'd be a little bummed.
I've had ostrich burgers.
Oh.
Pretty good. Yeah.
I have had the Oscar burgers. What the fuck is the name of the bird?
Ostrich.
Yeah, ostrich burgers would be delicious.
Well, in the traditional style of terrible English cooking, they were likely all boiled at the first Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And perhaps turned into pies. And if you've ever had to boil chicken when you're on a diet or something like that,
Disgusting.
it's pretty damn bland. Since the Wampanoag were a coastal people, the Native Americans, it's likely that mussels, dried fish, lobsters, and maybe even seals were included.
I was
in the
good
feast.
until they said seals. I was good.
Yeah. Seals and swans.
I don't know, though.
think,
Have
were
you ever had seal? So how do you know? Maybe it's delicious.
I
might
sang
be.
seal at the harbor in San Francisco with Kate.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Those
I remember.
early documents say that venison and Indian corn were served at the first adult's table.
Love
Chaps,
that.
your meat sweats would have been the grossest meat sweats
But
of all
venison's
time.
delicious.
Can you
Venison-
imagine
Oh.
the type of meat sweats that you get from seal or walrus? I bet you stink for a week.
Yeah, it
Oh,
just
I bet
sticks to you.
I bet you would. Oily, that seal. Another bird likely served at the first Thanksgiving was the eagle. But you can't have the earliest American settlers boiling the symbol of the United States as part of the Thanksgiving's origin story.
People are so triggered about having the American flag burned for rightful reasons. If you went over to somebody's house and they had a bald eagle in a pot.
Oh my God.
I mean, you might have to see if we can get your citizenship revoked. And I think probably we don't agree with a lot on different political sides. I think 95% of America would say if you boiled a bald eagle, you deserve prison.
You gotta go.
I mean, you just can't do it. But that is weird that we have different animals that were like, that's fine to kill. That one's bad. This is fine. That one's bad. Like a non-cute. It's basically, are you cute? Like, does anybody think you're cute? If somebody thinks you're cute, you can't kill that animal anymore. Rabbits might be the only.
Right.
Rabbits, I think, might be.
Yeah, I don't want to eat.
I think it's interesting though too. Now in 2022, I think a lot of people. I think by and large, most people serve a lot of the same stuff at Thanksgiving. But I think it's interesting to see how other things have woven themselves into people's different Thanksgiving traditions. And obviously, do whatever the heck you want. It's your Thanksgiving. But I've heard some odd things that I would never think to have at Thanksgiving, but it's part of people's traditions. What? Oh, just like they don't eat turkey. Like, you know, and they've completely substituted
prime rib instead of turkey.
Prime rib, yes, instead of turkey. Which, listen, if you gave me my choice between prime rib and turkey, I'm going to choose prime rib. Right. But I like turkey enough that I like to have it on Thanksgiving. And also probably because, yeah, of course. Yeah, come on.
Well,
we're gluttonous Americans, of course.
Did you guys see in the news, literally just this week, like this is in NBC News, it just came out a few hours ago, the Food and Drug Administration completed its first pre-market assessment of, it's called Upside Foods, and they grow meat from cells rather than killing animals. They have no further questions about the safety. They've just, it's like completely safe. And it looks like it's going to be, it has to go through a few more rungs, but you'll be able to buy lab-grown chicken in restaurants and supermarkets.
That's in America? That you said soon. That was the USDA?
Yeah, the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah, so
they still have to get approvals from the Department of Agriculture, but they're saying it's a more ethical and a healthier form of meat. Then again, if you're working for...
And it's already on the market in some countries in Europe. They already have it on the market. That's why.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kate. What the point you were just about to make?
Well, the FDA is saying we need a lot more research and stuff done, but I think that time is coming. But at the same time, though, like I almost feel like I'd still rather eat a chicken than one grown in a lab because I picture like I don't know, I just can't.
I think the texture would be different, right? Like there's no way they can get that same texture.
I don't know.
No, I don't think you're weird in that regard.
And not just that, but it's been proven. Like I'm pretty sure it's been proven. I think I just read it on Twitter. But that those types of Morningstar burgers have so much more artificial flavoring that it's probably worse for you than eating just the actual meat.
Yeah, then who knows?
Because all the fillers and all that extra bullshit. No thanks, man.
But I do think the time is coming in the future where that will be a thing. Like where we'll be having turkey. They'll still grow it in the shape of turkey.
They're trying to make us eat bugs, Kate. I'm not eating crickets.
I know. Fair enough.
Not eating cricket chips.
No.
I mean,
Fine.
I guess if I by the time I'm 90, I'm probably eating cricket chips, honestly.
No,
like
but
the
for
way
now,
things are
I'm
going.
good with my turkey and stuffing. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, but if it comes down to push and pull, I definitely think I'd probably eat cricket chips. I don't want to, but I probably would. All right, let's move on to save rounds and alibis. The first thing I want to talk about, because a lot of us go home, like military members go home during the holidays, and Thanksgiving is one of those big ones because I think it's the biggest family holiday of the year. You might be able to argue Christmas, but I think that's the more nuclear family. This is a big family event. Kate, I can't even imagine the house that you guys need for all the cousins and things like that. An actual ballroom, probably.
Oh man, we used to crowd into my grandmom's house, and people would have to bring extra tables, and the table would be like an L shape that snaked, it would be like a snake that snaked through the entire house. And there was this room upstairs called the parlor room, and it was super old couches. Nothing had been updated since like 1952. And when you walked in there, all the kids sitting on the floor, all the uncles on the couch, it was like packed. When you walked in there, if you hadn't been in there for a while, the fart smell that hit you in the parlor room would knock your fucking block off. You would walk in there. I remember aunts just opening the door, being like, wow, and leaving. And we were just sitting there marinating all day long while people,
And people turning on the faucet. It's like, dude, we know you're shitting. Like, we know you're shitting in there.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I always say when I used to go to the gym all the time, the worst day post-gym January 2nd. And not because of all the different people there. People are shitting out their booze. Like, that's the reason why you don't want to go
disgusting.
there. Just making hot, disgusting, acidic soup. Yeah.
Nice little turkey puree, my friends. But nothing beats. I was talking about this. My aunt, one of my aunts down the Jersey Shore, every year we do that huge family trip in June. And she did a night where she would make a full Thanksgiving feast in June. And you're like,
I'm
it's
sorry.
too hot. Who wants to eat that? Blah, blah, blah. No. Hear me out. You get home from the bars around 2 a.m. You're ravenous. You're all moving like a pack of hounds through all the different family houses. You get to the one with the Thanksgiving feast, the AC is nice and chilly, you're all drunk and hungry. And you pull a turkey and all the fixins out, and you're just bare-handed eating it like a wolf.
Yeah.
No, all right. That I agree with. However, have some civility, make a sandwich.
No.
Yes.
I
Don't just be
disagree.
eating it with your hands. No, I think you need to make a quality sandwich,
I think
regardless
you
of
can get
hour
away
and
with the
intoxication
hand,
level.
I think you can get away with the hand eating probably 3 days of the year. Coming home drunk from Thanksgiving, I think is definitely one of those times. Because you're already too drunk. A knife is dangerous at that point. You don't want to do that, but the old dick skinners can go straight up to the spine of the turkey, pull out a nice chunk, get you a piece of dark meat or white meat, whatever you do, cheers it with your uncle, and just go to town.
Also, lest we forget, this is another favorite time of year for firefighters, especially my beloved volunteer firefighters. Because what video do they love producing and putting out more than any other video all year?
We got a fucking turkey fryer going.
We got a turkey fryer, and they go for the biggest explosions possible. Just absolutely incredible work by our volunteer
I think that should be
firefighters
part of the
this
4th of July. Like, just do it intentionally, because I love watching.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. So anyway, everyone
so
be
I
careful.
came across this Am I the Asshole? It's a military version of it. So they say, am I an asshole for expecting to be picked up from the airport? A bit of context, I'm in the military. I've been away from home for about a month and a half training. I arranged to go home for Thanksgiving, though I'm paying through the nose for it. Last night, my husband asked me if it was okay that instead of picking me up at the airport, take a commuter train and meet me at the halfway point. His mom is concerned about the heavy traffic into the city. Your thoughts right here. Kate, any? Because you have been this person where you come home from San Diego and trying to go back to Philly or something like that.
My parents, no matter what would pick me up from the airport. No matter what. Even if I was gone for just a week or two, they would pick me up. That being said, if it is a city where it's super easy to hop on a train and go to a halfway point where there's no traffic, why the fuck not? Like, I don't think...
I fully disagree. I think if this is, if this is your spouse, no way, dude. Because if she's coming home and putting all that money in, she hasn't been gone for a short period of time. Like, she had to put in leave to come home and do all that stuff. If you aren't obsessed, if you haven't been away from your significant other of going to see them the moment that you can and greeting them off the airport, you're probably with the wrong person.
You know what? I will have to agree about that. And this makes me sad reading this now. She said, instead of feeling like, welcome home, we missed you, I'm getting that I'm inconveniencing everyone by even coming home. I'm a little hurt that my husband doesn't want to put out the effort to come get me, and I told him so. It's a quagmire. Agree and be a martyr, a hurt and pissed off one, or refuse and be a brat. So I agreed. So which one of us is the asshole? Now I feel bad.
Him.
Go
he is the asshole.
fucking wife.
Why is your fucking mom involved?
Also, time out. Anybody whose parents, like, if you're dating a guy and he's still doing what mommy and daddy says instead of doing what's best for you guys, he's a fucking pussy. You can't.
And also, why is his mother concerned about his driving, his gas consumption, any of that? Why is she concerned?
We need a little bit
more information. I'm sorry. I was
no,
wrong.
so I agreed with Chaps. I think this guy is a jerk.
Eating in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah.
This is outrageous.
How mad
it's
I
Thanksgiving week. I guess we could get away with it here. We need a little more information about these couples because typically whenever you have an Am I the Asshole, you put the age and gender into little brackets that you can
that
see.
helps.
I think the only way I could see this being remotely acceptable, it's still not acceptable, if they got married right out of boot camp. She's 19, he's like 18 or 19 too. She's coming home for the first time after boot camp or MCT, and they haven't really been together that long, and he lives in a city like Atlanta where he's never driven on a
My mom says I can't come get
right.
you.
Like, maybe, but still then, if you listen to your mom about traffic at the holidays, you have no business being.
Well, I think that's a good point, though, Chaps, what you said about his age, because I think there is an age where you still take into consideration what your parents have to say, and that this guy's got to be young, because if he was a full-blown adult...
There's some...
But you're married, though, Cons. Once you're married, I think all rules of being young disappear.
Oh, no, I have friends they're in their 30s now, and their spouse's parents are still, like, controlling and it's like, get the fuck out of here. You gotta cut that shit out.
But, no, I think this is interesting, too, now because of Uber, and, you know, it's very different from getting a taxi. I was the same way. My parents were always willing to drive me to or pick me up from the airport, especially when I was still in the military and coming home. So I think this guy's an absolute jerk for not just saying, like, I'll just come get you. Like, there shouldn't be all these other factors. Like, your wife's coming home, go get her.
Yeah, the only thing I could see, too, about making her take mass transit, if you landed a place like Newark and you were like, hey, so I don't have to park at Newark and come into the airport because that'll be crazy, take the AirTran over to the closest different metro, which is right there, Newark Airport Metro Station, and you could pick somebody up that way. But if you have to do a 20-minute commute or something like that, I feel like that is a slippery slope to divorce already. Because this is not something she's ever going to forget. Ever.
Yeah. And I think, too, like, even if it is a pain in the ass to get her and it would be super easy for her to hop transit, blah, blah, there's just little things that mean a lot to people. And you're right. I think that is one of them. Like, even if it doesn't quite make sense, there's little things that just make a difference. And like,
so that's my point when I talk about how now with Uber, it is very easy to just get a ride from the airport. Like, getting an Uber is no different than picking up in terms of, you know, the logistics of it. But it is that little added, oh, well, this person actually cares enough that they will make an effort to come.
It's the hug at the gate. It's you being able to take. How many bags does she have? How long is she coming for? Is she having to roll a bag, a carry-on, and then a backpack or personal item too? And if you're getting off the plane, speaking of, all of us have come back from a deployment. If your families were just like, we'll pick you up as soon as you get home. I mean, we'll send an Uber, we'll send a cab. You would be greatly hurt from that thing. And I don't think that war separates that. You want your love, like the love of your life, to meet you and care about meeting you.
Totally.
Yeah, and I don't even think the military aspect. Yeah, I don't even think the military
ass.
aspect of this plays a factor. It's like you're a spouse. Like,
basic
I don't get
human
that they're in the
decency.
military. Right,
Yeah.
right. And I tweeted this the other day, like, what are some of the best, you know, unwritten rules for life? And I think this might be one of them. If your spouse is returning from an airport or from a trip, you go pick them up, regardless of time and any of that. But now...
No, I make pet Uber all the time.
I hate to say this. No, time out. I'm about to
normal
defend
travel. I think
like
normal travel and just going to like Ohio for business for the day, that does not necessitate.
Thank you.
I come in from New York a lot. Annalise is not meeting me at gate B6 with a fucking thing of flowers if I'm gone 4 days.
Yeah, I was going to say, this isn't like each and every time someone goes to the airport that we need to be picking each other up. Because, as I said, Uber makes life a lot easier. I don't know, but there is something, and maybe this is very archaic thinking, I think it would be different if the roles were reversed and the guy was coming home versus...
I would still be upset. If I think we need to put
I'd be
time
bummed out.
on this, too.
I'd be bummed out, but I would just do it.
Oh, no. Can you picture a guy being like, you want me to take a fucking train? Oh, it would be way worse. You guys suck.
I don't think it would be worse at all.
No,
it'd be worse.
But let me say this. How long does the break have to be where you feel like you need to be at the gate? I think anything...
2 weeks.
Yeah, I was in between 2 and 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks is definitely a long travel.
Do you just mean like picking up on like the curb? Because like you can't get through the. I'm nitpicking. You can't get through the gate.
I don't think you ever have to park and go in unless it's like unless it's like 6 months or more. I think.
Yeah, I think that kind of thing. And you can get a pass, Cons. You can get a pass to go through a non-ticketed pass.
No, you can, but you absolutely can. Yeah. No. I remember my mom did that when I came home in R&R. You could definitely do that.
And I'm sure that felt good when she was there.
She was there when I walked off the jetway. Yes, that was
exactly
amazing.
right. And you get that hug, and that feels special, like that. And that's how you want your significant other to feel special. She's in a place, even if you end up doing it while you're arguing about it, you didn't make her feel special. And that's something that is going to be in her mind essentially forever, or his mind, or their mind.
And if he can't understand that, once again, ditch him. No hand drops this Thanksgiving.
Oh, no.
Not a one,
Definitely
honey.
not a mouther. No way.
For sure, no.
All right, Kate, did you get my text about movies? Did you get that one?
Yes.
Okay, do you got a piece of paper? Do both of you got your paper or no?
I'll get a
Yes.
piece of paper right now.
Okay,
Sorry.
cool. So what this game is, I asked them if you, from the holiday season, which we'll say just for old time's sake that it's the day after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
If you could do one movie or two movies, two Christmas movies, and they have to play back to back to back. All you can watch is two Christmas movies forever for that whole holiday season. Which ones would you guys pick? I have mine written down, and I'm doing a writing down just so somebody doesn't remember a better holiday movie and take the other person's too. So we're writing it down before. Let me know when you guys are ready.
Do you
Okay,
want
I'm
both
ready.
at once?
Yeah, we'll all do it at the same time, and then we'll explain our picks. Okay? So cons
Okay.
are, let's 1, 2, 3. All right, so cons got Home Alone, Christmas Vacation. I got Elf and Home Alone 2. Kate's still writing Cheater.
Cheater,
No,
pumpkin
but
eater.
I'm
Cheater.
sorry.
I said before Kate.
Well, you went so fast. I was still writing my shit down.
Oh, well, Home Alone and Christmas Vacation?
No,
is that the
claymation
No,
Christmas.
Claymation
Claymation.
Christmas.
What is that?
Oh
Jesus.
my God, you fools! 1987, ring a bell.
Oh, is it Weird Al in that or some shit?
No, it's claymation. It's a stop motion. We watched this in the
I know
farty
what
parlor
it
room.
is. Yeah.
Is it the part like an elf where he's like, "Bye, buddy. I hope you find your dad."
It's
Like that kind of claymation?
Yes, it is that kind of claymation. It was the first one, and it came out in 1987, but we watched it on repeat. It's only 24 minutes long, and it's these two dinosaurs dressed up like Santa who are claymation. They're supposed to be like a Siskel and Ebert kind of. They're grumpy, they're funny, they're eating everything, and they are the hosts who walk you through these shorts. So like, there's these two super overweight walruses who do an ice skating routine, and
Not
it's
to weight
hilarious.
shame.
Not to weight shame, but all the penguins are on the sideline like, oh no, they're going to go through. And then the California Raisins do a song. They do Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
This
That was
sounds
the first-
horrible.
There is
First
no
crush.
shot this is one of your actual top 2 favorite Christmas movies.
Hand to God, if you put a gun to my head and you're like, let me see what's in your brain, it's that and Home Alone.
All right, well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but your choices stink.
The best one.
No,
is
not
the-
the one of
No,
them
not
does
the first one. Yeah, one of them doesn't.
Hear me out on this. Tell me this isn't comedy. One of the other little skits is Carol of the Bells, and all the bells are claymation. They're all real. So it's like ding, ding, ding. And then the dumb bell, there's a dumb bell. One of the bells is dumb. And he loses his bell mallet. And so the song's going perfectly, and it gets to him, and he's like, I lost mine. And boy, oh boy. Me and my cousins would rewind that part and watch it over and over. And that was comedy, folks.
You
So
know
you were
that
good for
there's
24
that
minutes,
one-
though.
There's one Twitter account
great.
that'd be like, I made a computer watch Seinfeld for 24 hours and this is the new skit. That sounds exactly like what you're like. Made a computer watch Christmas movies and this is what it came up with was that story.
Oh,
Cons-
they're all so good.
Cons, what was yours?
Mine were Home Alone and Christmas Vacation. I just think there's tremendous rewatchability. They both have a good plot, a lot of funny lines, a lot of memorable lines. Both have happy endings. So I wouldn't want to not have those during the Christmas season. There's definitely other ones that I watch every year. Specifically, every year on Christmas night, we watch The Family Stone. Can't have that on rewatch, though. I can't be crying for 25 days straight.
True.
Well, you know what I based mine off of? I was like, what am I most excited when my son gets a little older? What 2 movies would I be most excited to sit down and watch with him finally? And so those are the 2.
That's a big
Yeah.
and I can understand the claymation more because that's one that he would like a lot faster. Nick, do you have your top 2? Oh,
Okay.
good choices.
Oh,
Jingle.
Arnold.
Yeah, Jingle All the Way doesn't get nearly enough credit. Mine were Elf and Home Alone 2. Elf, I think, that's probably the most modern Christmas classic, I would say, like the
Yeah.
last made Christmas classic. Will Ferrell, ballsy move right now, making another Christmas movie.
Wait,
And
what?
it's not Elf
Yeah.
2. I don't know if you could do that. It's him and Mark Wahlberg, I think.
No,
Or-
it's him and Ryan Reynolds, and it's
Yeah,
kind
that
of like
makes
a
more
take
sense,
on, Ebenezer Scrooge and the
Yeah.
Night Before Christmas.
So I think that's a risky decision by Will Ferrell. And second, there will never be a time in my natural life where I watch those bricks land on Marv and don't laugh.
Oh
I mean,
my
I just
God.
will.
Oh my
I will.
God.
I think that it's one of the funniest scenes from a slapstick type of comedy that there is. And that scene where he makes the little dangerous path in Home Alone 2 would kill somebody. Like the first one was a little bit rough. Sticking your head in fucking turpentine when it's on fire, that'd kill you.
Me and my buddies in high school, we smoked a couple doinks once, and we went to watch it in my friend Andrew's basement. And
I can't wait to do that. Take a gummy or two and watch it.
Yeah.
My God.
Well, it got to the part, we were watching Home Alone 1 where they're going through, we called it the funhouse scene, where they're going through and like their heads getting caught on. I mean, it was the first time it ever occurred to us as kids how incredibly violent it was. And we
5 bricks to the face from the 3rd floor.
We could not stop
dead.
laughing. We could not stop laughing. We all had tears streaming down our faces.
You don't even understand. If you've never done like tool stuff, that tool shed that rumbles down, the toolbox that rumbles down the stairs and smashes into them, that'd kill you. Like, it would completely shatter your sternum into the rest of your body.
And the tarantula scream, oh my God, that's the best
getting
scream.
hit with a fucking crowbar in the chest. Those guys, they need to be soldiers or Marines something. That toughness is just absolutely next level. Speaking of Christmas movies, McCartney doesn't like scary movies at all. Like, doesn't like to be freaked out, doesn't like to be nervous. Even in like the Marvel world, you know, when you're watching an intense scene and if you're doing it with surround sound, there's bass and like they use the music to really capture the scene too. Doesn't like that. Right now, we've watched this year already probably 15 or so really cheesy Christmas romance, like Hallmark style. McCartney can't get enough. And they think they're so smart when the two couples that are the couple who's gonna be a couple is very obvious. They'll be like, I think they're gonna be in love. And we're like, really? You think so? And my wife and I are doing that, and then they'll end up kissing or something like that. And Cardi's like, "See, I told you." And we're like,
right.
"Whoa, how did you figure that out?" The two most attractive people on the show ended up getting together. This is fucking wild, man. Wild stuff. That's really it today. Any other safe rounds and alibis? Nick, you got one? Save Round and Alibis today is brought to you by our good friends at Morgan & Morgan. They are the biggest personal injury law firm in the United States. They have over 800 attorneys across the country. Going up against the big companies for the money you deserve requires having the big guns on your side. Last year, we went through a kind of that sort of thing. We were sitting in my house, and then the next day, we go outside. My daughter's car was parked on the road because we don't have that big of a driveway, and I got too much shit in my garage. One of our neighbors, I don't know which one because there's 2 driveways right by it, backed into our car and completely wrecked it. We had to go and talk to a lawyer, talk to an attorney about what was going on. These attorneys, whenever you have something like that, God forbid you're hit by a semi-truck or if you're hit and injured in any kind of accident, you need lawyers like Morgan & Morgan on your side. When you're injured, you deserve more. Morgan & Morgan has more offices, more lawyers, and more than $15 billion recovered. Even better, they are completely free to work with unless you win your case. Injured, visit forthepeople.com/0 to see if you have a case. It's no cost to you to get that consultation. That's thepeople.com/0.
Yeah, I just want 2 things. Underrated recent Christmas movies that I think people could watch is Office Christmas Party. I saw it in the theaters, and The Night Before is up there in my top 5.
The Night Before.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Seth Rogen, and Anthony Mackie are in that. And then lastly, for Thanksgiving, there will be no turkey at mine. That's just what the in-laws do. They don't do the turkey. They are from Italy, and they'll probably have one, but if it's probably going to be plastic, and it's just going to be to appease me.
What's the meal then?
Oh, it's going to be like basically Sunday times 1,000.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the same thing. So it be filet mignon. There's always like a jumbo shrimp platter.
Ooh.
There's going to be there'll be lasagna, gnocchi, and manigot. Those are going to be the staples. There'll be a cold.
I'd prefer that, to be honest.
Yeah, that sounds fucking delicious.
Yeah, I mean,
and with the Nona's cooking it, my goodness.
That's just really Sunday, though. I mean, it's just another day for them. But anyway, that's it. Happy Thanksgiving.
I love it. Happy Thanksgiving.
A few things. Number one, Zach Wilson, quarterback for the New York Jets. He could use a lesson.
I wanted to talk about that too.
he could use a lesson in leadership. Jesus, just, hey, let me just go up here and flame everybody else except me and blame the weather. And oh my God, it was just painful to listen to that kid. Like, those are the sorts of things, especially playing the quarterback position, you're always told, like, you know, don't blame other people, even if it very clearly is, you know, somebody else's fault. You never publicly blame other people on the podium there. You take ownership. You say, I have to be better. You know, we got to play better as a team. It was just painful to listen to.
It really was. Like, part of it was like they're going out there. Even Josh Allen last year in the playoffs, where Patrick Mahomes came down at the end of the game and got him into field goal position with like 27 seconds left when they started the drive. After the game, they were like, Josh, what do you think about the defense not even letting you get onto the field to try to win the game in the playoffs in overtime? And he was like, we should have never went to overtime. I had a couple bad plays that cost us a drive, and we should have scored in those positions. If we would have scored there, we wouldn't have put the defense in that bad position. So I want to apologize to the defense for doing that to them. That's leadership. You would I mean, Tom Brady has set every record possible. You can't find one clip where he blamed his teammates. Not one.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't do it. It's crazy.
And I think, like, you talk unit cohesion. You want to fuck that up real quick. Start pointing fingers at everybody else. Like, I have found it's hard to take blame sometimes, but it's definitely the way it always plays out for you is better if you just accept what you have fucked up.
And especially
if you're in charge, you take the blame. If something goes bad, if something goes good, you tell them it was everybody else and you had nothing to do with it.
That's leadership 101. I get you got a big target on your back because you're at a quarterback in New York and you got a big paycheck, but still unbelievable.
I also heard he was super baby growing up. Had everything handed to him. His uncle owns JetBlue. He grew up really rich, and now he's facing some adversity, probably for the first time in his life because he was so good at BYU and not able to handle it.
So just noticed that. And then lastly, just interesting what we see put out there on Twitter polls to decide things. You know, I put out a Twitter poll yesterday. Should I get pancakes or waffles? And then you have somebody like Elon Musk putting out a Twitter poll, should Donald Trump be allowed back on Twitter, yes or no? And he's letting the people decide. I just thought that was funny, like the dichotomy between the consequences of our different Twitter polls there was just kind of funny to me.
Do you think Elon Musk paid $44 billion so part of the internet would think he's cool? I do.
Yeah, oh, sure.
That's
sure.
it.
Yeah,
like, I've been a fucking nerd my entire life. Look at pictures when he was growing up, an absolute geek that probably got stuffed into lockers, and now he's got a $44 billion toy that might end up being destroyed. And if it is, I'm going to be pissed because my work depends so much on Twitter.
I don't think it's going anywhere.
I will be fucked if that happens. Kate, what about you for save rounds?
What about me? I've been following the World Cup stuff. I saw, so far, Qatar lost to Ecuador, I think yesterday, and all the Ecuadorians in the stadium were screaming, like, something cervezas, like, we want our beer, because Qatar put the kibosh at the last minute on booze at the stadium. And then England whooped Iran 6-2 today. Netherlands is beating Senegal right now. The U.S. plays later today. But I saw that Iran, you know, people in Iran were critiquing them, saying these players aren't our friends. They're bad. The government's sending them. They're a face of the government. Well, they refused to sing their national anthem during the game, which is a big deal. That's a pretty big statement from them. So I'm interested to see, you know, and then they lost. So I'm interested to see what happens when they get back home, if they're going to be okay. And then shout out, we have three people from Barstool heading to Qatar right now. I think Donnie Does is already there and heading to the USA game. PFT commenter's on the way. And then Michelangelo, this film producer, is amazing, is going to be there too. So hopefully they don't get in any trouble. PFT
Michelangelo, when he was going, he was like, Jobs, you've traveled around the world a little bit in your day. Do you think I'd be okay to bring a weed pen to Qatar? I was like, yeah, dude, if you want to spend the rest of your life in prison. Don't do that.
Not worth
shit.
it, bud.
Not worth it. PFT commenter said he wasn't joking. He said, I'm buying all new luggage to take because he's like, I don't want to have there even be a chance that I accidentally leave a weed pen or something small. Because people do that all the time and not think about it. Like, people are like, well, Brittany Griner should have known. Dude, so many people do that shit without
And it was
thinking.
prescribed to her.
Right, so he's like, I'm buying all new luggage. I'm not going to risk it. But anyway, I think they'll be fine. I like the way Big Cat put it. People are like, are you nervous that PFT is going? And he's like, I'll put it this way. A 4 out of 10 it's not like he's going to like Miami for a game or something. It is a little more intense. There is a chance, but I'm not that worried. So I hope they have a good time. I'm interested to see. And I love seeing all these people are staying in Cairns like we did on Leatherneck.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are getting a little taste of the deployment life over there. So
Yeah,
there you have
they
it.
are. I wanted to touch on, is that it, Kate?
Oh, and just finally, happy Thanksgiving, especially to any service members listening, and especially whether you're in the service or not, to anybody who can't make it home for this Thanksgiving. You're not alone. Reach out to your buddies. Have your buddies reach out to you. Send everybody a little message, but you're definitely not alone. And I'm just thinking of everybody this Thanksgiving. Thankful for every listener we have. Truly, truly, thank you.
Here's a question for you. Do
Yeah.
we think this is the most of our military that's been home for Thanksgiving in the last 20 years?
Probably
Totally
so.
Yeah,
speculating.
probably,
right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably pretty damn close to it. You're right there, Cons. I wanted to touch a little bit on Iran too. The same thing that Kate was saying. I was really struck by how brave those soccer players were this morning, and this going and seeking asylum after you do something like that in the sporting world is not uncommon. There's been several different baseball players that once they come to Miami or they come to the United States to play in a tournament or the World Series of baseball or something like that, they try to leave that country and become almost like a refugee and leave them because they're doing that. Iran does not have that choice in Qatar. So a lot of
Right.
this, when everybody's like, oh, they're probably going to stay there or they'll defect, that's not true. Qatar will extradite them to Iran in a second whenever it comes about. That is so brave, what they did, and not just them. It's secondhand bravery by their families, because so many of those Iranian players still are going to have family members there, and they believe so much in this revolution that's happening there that they are willing, essentially by doing that, they are willing to die for that cause and on a world stage. The bravery that you see there hasn't been in sports probably since the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah.
It's
The
just really
Iranian
hard to wrap
women's-
your head around.
The Iranian women's basketball team just posted a photo on their official page where they're all uncovered.
No
They all
hijabs,
have their
yeah.
hair showing, and they put a statement in support. And they're in Iran as they're doing this. So, yeah, just absolutely incredible. I'm following all sorts of accounts now that are tracking everything that's going on, and you just got to root for the people so hard. It's crazy.
Yeah, we will have an update on that when we come back on Tuesday. We're not going to have a Friday show. But the last thing I'll say about that is that so many times with these cringe companies or countries that we talked about last week, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and extremists, the global extremists, with all those different countries that we see around the world, a lot of Americans hate everything about those countries. I think we're wrong on that. We hate the governments of those countries, not the people. And the Iranians are showing why. Those few Russians that did protest, those show the reason why. So I think we need to show the Iranians, the people of Iran, a lot of deference for what they're going through right now, because it's really unimaginable for us here right now. And if you don't value freedom, that's exactly where you end up. Because if you look at the way the country was in the 1970s, Iran was not like this. Women were involved in fashion. Soon after that, they lost all their freedoms. You always have to be on the lookout. Democracy is an experiment. Sound the retreat.